Hello and welcome back to the Circling Seattle Sports Podcast. Today for you, I have Seattle Interview Series number 18. I have Val Whiting with me. Coach Val, I'm just going to go down this list because this list is very impressive to me. Pac-10 Freshman of the Year, two-time NCAA champion, two-time Pac-10 Player of the Year, former USA Women's Basketball Team National Team member, ABL All-Star, WNBA veteran, Stanford Athletic Hall of Fame, SB Award finalist, Naismith Award finalist, Emmy nominee, and that's just some of them. So I appreciate having you on. How have things been for you this spring? How are you doing? How are you doing?
Doing great and enjoying the weather. I think it's back to sunshine again. It was scared me for a couple of days with the rain.
Yeah, no, I think we talked about it earlier, but it's interesting how the weather's been, and I think we only had the Saturday it was kind of overcast and it rained, but it's been nice, so I'll take it, you know.
Yeah, I was worried because someone's like, "Oh, well, it's gonna rain for the next few days." Like, oh, right.
That's what I saw, but then I mean, at least yesterday, from what I remember, it was nice. So you know, I'll take it. I want to get into sort of the beginnings here. Was it difficult at all for you to defer your acceptance to the University of California, San Francisco School of Medicine in order to play basketball over in Brazil and Italy? Was that a tough decision for you, or did you sort of know that you wanted to play basketball first?
I knew I wanted to play basketball first, just give it a try, and I really didn't think I was gonna have any kind of career or anything. So I just said, okay, just give me 2 years, and then I'll go back.
What ultimately brought you to Stanford? What factored into you attending the university? How does that decision made? What made you say, hey, I'm going to Stanford?
Well, I always wanted to go to school in California. I'm from Delaware, and I was living in Delaware at the time. And I don't know why, maybe from the TV, just the beaches, the palm trees, and the weather. And honestly, I didn't even know Stanford was in California until I got my first letter from them. I never even had heard of Stanford because on the East Coast, I just knew about the Ivy League schools like Harvard and Penn and Yale. And so when someone said, oh, at Stanford, that's on the West Coast, that's in California, that's a good school, and they have a good PreMed program, because I wanted to be PreMed, that piqued my interest.
So, and then speaking of that, what sparked your interest in PreMed? How did that sort of come to be? What made you want to look into that field?
Well, ever since I was a little girl, I always wanted to be a doctor. I was making like prosthetic arms and legs for my dolls, when they would break, and performing surgery. And I had a love for science and biology and chemistry, and it's just something I always wanted to do.
So then we're going to go back to playing in Italy and Brazil. What sort of lessons and memories from your time there do you take back? And how different would you say the basketball scenes are? I mean, were they? Hello?
You're frozen.
Oh, shoot.
You're frozen. I didn't even just said, and now I don't even see you. I just see a picture.
So what sort of lessons and memories did you take from your time playing in Italy and Brazil? And then how different would you say was playing basketball over there as compared to your time that you had previously spent playing basketball in the U.S.?
So Italy was hard for me. For some reason, I was obsessed with playing in Italy. So I told my agent I wanted to play in Italy. I thought that's where all the best players were going. And so I just went to a team instead of going to the best fit for me. So that was hard because it was a small town. No one really spoke English on my team. And my other foreign teammate, because you get 2 foreigners per team, was Russian, and she spoke Italian, but I didn't speak Italian yet. So that was hard. I just felt really isolated, and I was really homesick. And you're gone again. Oh, you're back. All right. And then I went back and came back to Brazil, and I love Brazil. Brazil country is very warm, meaning the people are very warm. I felt like every other week there was a holiday. because it's a Catholic country, and some celebration for some saint. And the team, once again, my team didn't speak English, but I learned Portuguese. I was in a small town. The town was so small that people were riding horses to the grocery store and parking them outside. So that was really cool. And they love women's basketball there. Some of the best players in the world have come out of Brazil.
And I do applaud.
How it's different from the United States. I think United States, we tend to overdo stuff. I felt like when I was in Italy and Brazil, like we practiced smartly, the smart way, and was a lot of overtraining. And for instance, in Brazil, like we would warm up in different ways. Like one time we warmed up playing soccer, or another time we warmed up playing handball. And it seemed like it was more about just preserving our bodies instead of beating ourselves up. So I was used to going hard at practice all the time, and that necessarily wasn't the vibe when I played New York practice in Brazil.
It is interesting to hear that, because, to your point, you don't want to overdo things necessarily before you get to, a game level, or, necessarily overtrain yourself. So it is interesting to hear that, and like you said, practicing in a smart way and just being able to be efficient, I guess, with, the practice that you have. It is definitely interesting to hear about. How was your time with USA Basketball, and what sort of things did you remember from that time?
So that was probably one of the biggest life-changing moments, was my experience with USA Basketball. So for the 95 national team, which was the first time they were supposed to train together the whole year and playing the 96 Olympics, which is going to be in Atlanta. And my college coach was the coach of that team, Stanford, Vanderveer. So before the tryouts happened, one of the players came to me and said, the Olympic Committee said, if you come to this tryout in shape, you will make the team. And I came in shape. I had people donate. I didn't have money, so that much money. Because I didn't go to Brazil until the year after that. So I had people donate their time to work out with me, and nutritionists and skills coaches. And it was time to go to tryouts, and I had an amazing tryout. I was balling out, but I didn't make the team. I remember the last 18 people, I guess it was, and you sit in your room in the Olympic Training Center, and the coach comes and gets you, and then you go into this other room where all the committee is sitting, and they sit you down, and they say, okay, Val, you did not make the team. We didn't choose you, but good luck in medical school. That's what they said. And I immediately started crying. And it's not because it wasn't because I failed. It's the fact I felt betrayed. First of all, my coach was the coach. And then I was told I was going to make the team. So I guess years later, I found out, not actually like 2 years ago, I found out that David Stern and NBA was really heavily into who made the team. And they wanted certain players to make the team, like Rebecca Lobo, because it's for marketing, right? Because they're thinking of starting a women's basketball league. So honestly, I kind of wish that my coach would have said it was Olympic Committee and I didn't have a choice, but she never said anything to me.
Huh. Jeez.
But that was really, that rocked my confidence as a player. I questioned myself. Always, after that, I thought I was less than because I wasn't on that 96 national team. I went into depression, all that. And then after that, I ended up going over to Brazil and playing.
So, if it's okay to ask, from, that point, obviously that's a difficult time. How do you, what do you say to yourself? How do you collect yourself and say, okay, I'm just going to go back to work and continue to improve? How do you sort of rebound from that, I guess?
I think what I ended up doing was getting medical treatment. I went to a psychiatrist and a psychologist. I don't know if it was a sports psychologist. I can't really remember. And I thought I was better, but my confidence was still, I was always comparing myself to the people on the national team. And I ended up getting called back to be one of the finalists for the 96 team. But I think I had given up so much, and I wasn't in shape when they called me back or anything. And so I didn't make it as well. But
All right, apologize. I'm just going to apologize to anyone who's watching this, as well as Coach Val. Had some internet issues. That is on me. We are back now. Looks like things are good. So we're going to just pick it back up. How did you rebound, from those words, from the national team committee? And, how did you pick yourself back up and rebound, I guess, to play on words with the whole basketball term there?
So I had a mixture of feelings. I had sadness and I had just like anger. I was so mad. And I end up like I said, ended up going into depression as a result of it. And I got therapy and I got medical treatment and went on medication. Probably didn't really address the issue at hand with why I was so angry and betrayed I felt. I honestly wish I could have spoken to my coach, because how my brain works, maybe how everybody's brain works, I have to know why of everything.
Yep.
I have to tell me why, and it would have been nice to hear why and what they were looking for and, what I could have done better. I didn't really hear any of that. So I ended up going to Brazil. Thought I was fully recovered. Like I said, still always constantly wondering about myself as a player, because I didn't make that team. I'm less than. And I always tell kids, never let anybody or anything take your confidence away. And that's the biggest lesson for me from that experience with the national team, was I let that affect my confidence long term.
So you come from that, you go to Brazil, then the ABL. How was the ABL and what was that experience like, and how different perhaps was it, coming from those experiences in Italy and Brazil? How was the ABL for you?
The ABL was great. So it started in '96, and I got contacted when I was overseas about this when I was in Brazil. And because actually my Brazilian teammate ended up playing in the ABL as well for Philadelphia. And actually both of them ended up playing for Philadelphia. It was another Brazilian teammate who was from Brazil. He was on the Brazilian national team. But they ended up putting two founding players on each team. You didn't get drafted. They just placed you there. So I went to the San Jose Lasers, basically because I was a Stanford player, and they put Jennifer Azzi there as well. And the guy actually owned the San Jose Lasers at the time. It was the same guy who owns the Golden State Warriors right now.
Oh, wow.
So that's a cool fact. And so they paid us six figures. And I think the season was 6 months. And we felt like we had input into the league. Felt like we're helping the league grow with regards to getting out in the community. Reebok was one of the sponsors, as well as Nissan, and we were on the TV network that we would be on Fox, like local Fox channels, Fox Sports, and I believe BET. And then the year later, the WNBA came about, and so apparently they took most of the major TV deals. And it's really hard to survive without a major TV deal. And we're happening at the same time, so much to the point that their marketing would say, we got next. And then ABL would say, we got players. Because it was known that the ABL had better players than the WNBA. For example, all of the Olympic team, 96 Olympic players, the Olympic team went to the ABL, except for three people, Lisa Leslie, Rebecca Lobo, and Cheryl Swoops. They went to the WNBA. So we're existing at the same time. And then, like, for example, ESPN wouldn't even put our highlights on ESPN, but they would put the WNBA highlights on ESPN.
I see.
We even had our first ever slam dunk contest with Sylvia Crawley. She made actually a blindfold dunk. And who did she take off from? Just inside the free throw line. And I don't think that made any kind of national news. So eventually, halfway through the third season, the ABL folded. And I was just home for Christmas break. And I got a call from what's that called? A reporter from my local newspaper in Delaware saying, I think it was actually Kevin Tresolini. He was like, "Hey, Val, what do you think about the league folding?" I was like, "What?" And then I hung up, and I don't remember who I called, and found out the league folded. And so we're all in shock, and we all went back. Like my team, we all went back to Seattle, and we were standing in line at the unemployment office in Seattle, to file for unemployment. And just went back and trying to figure out what our next step was. And the next step was to go to the WNBA. Apparently, I didn't realize this until I had a conversation on Clubhouse with another ABL and WNBA player. There were 20 slots available for ABL players, but there were 90 ABL players who were 20 slots available in the WNBA for us, but there were 90 of us trying to get those slots. And they had a combine with all the WNBA players as well for those 20 spots. So we're like killing each other for those 20 spots. And the WNBA Players Association and the CBA put in the contract that they would not allow more than 3 ABL players per team, because we had great players. We were going to be taking people's spots. So we only had 3 players per team. So a lot of ladies didn't get picked up at all. And my friend Sylvia Crawley, who was a slam dunk winner, was one of those people who didn't get picked up. I think there was expansion draft the next year, and she got picked up by the Portland team. But yeah, a lot of great players didn't get picked up and didn't get drafted.
So with that being said, and with how that situation went, was there any sort of reluctance, I guess, to join the league? Or was it like, hey, this is another chance to go and play? Or was there any sort of mixed feelings, I guess?
Oh yeah, for sure. I remember we were in the room. We were in our rookie orientation. I say rookie, I was 27. Got a little rookie to probably like 30. People have been playing overseas for 10 years or whatever. And David Stern was talking to us. And Edna Campbell, she went to the University of Texas. She was in ABL as well. Probably like the best mid-range game you ever see. Said something about, I don't know, she started crying, and I think it had to do with the ABL folding and her friends not getting jobs. And then David Stern was like, well, and I think she was talking about how she felt the WNBA did that. And David Stern was like, well, you guys were always, the ABL was always taking jabs at us, saying that you had players, we didn't have players. And so I think there's some animosity. I still myself have mixed feelings and call myself I feel more of an ABL player than a WNBA player, even though I list myself as ex-WNBA because nobody knows about the ABL. But yeah, I still to this day feel so much more connected to the ABL.
It's interesting to hear about that and how that all went down. Especially hearing that some of those women were not able to make those rosters. It sounds just like a tough situation and just not like a fun one at all. Do you think, with the way the league is now, that is different, I guess you could say, in terms of like ownership and how it's run compared to back then?
Yeah, it's way different because when back then, I don't know when they changed this, when you were drafted by a WNBA team, you signed the contract with the league. So your check came from the league. I mean, it's the same now. I mean, it's not, that part's not the same. Now you can sign, there's free agency. There wasn't free agency.
Oh.
Right? There wasn't like I can go, I can be recruited by, what is that team? Like another team. I had to actually either be waived or traded, and because I was under contract with the league. Now you sign with individual teams, right? Before then you signed with the league, and your contract was with the league. Now you can have a 3-year contract with the Washington Mystics. So it's no like like free agent frenzy like they have
Jeez.
now.
Huh.
It's more like, oh, someone got traded and someone got waived. And I think you can still do that now, but it just was way different.
So this was the part that I find the most fun because my father was actually able to find this. How was your time with the Seattle Reign, and what do you remember most from that time, that experience in Seattle?
I remember having probably the best teammates in the world in Seattle, and the best fans. That's what I remember.
Now, it's interesting to me that, I just want to say obviously where, but what sort of stuck in your mind about Seattle? Obviously, sort of Washington has, I guess, become home to you. How did that come to be, I guess, if that's okay to ask, because I know that you talked about the weather here is, as we know here, the weather is not always consistent, but how did you end up landing here, I guess is the main question.
So in 2012, I closed my business back in Delaware. I had a workout facility, actually a CrossFit gym. And I just wanted to be closer to my parents. My parents live here. They moved here when my oldest son was like 3 months old because of Microsoft. And so they were out here, and my sister's here too, and her family, and we were back east, and just wanted to move closer to them.
So it's always cool to hear, how people end up here, just because some people obviously do have their issues with the weather, but still pretty cool. When I found that, I was like, oh wait, for reference, when I asked Coach Val about scheduling and time zones, it was like, oh, we have the same time zone. I was like, oh shoot. So that was a cool moment for me, I guess. I take having people.
I let you know I live in Seattle because it's on my let's just say greatest Seattle area in my LinkedIn profile.
So, just a little Seattle pride, I guess. Here's one that I'm kind of interested about. What is one thing that you miss about playing the game of basketball professionally, and one thing that you do not miss from playing the game of basketball professionally?
I miss being on a team. I miss that, and like being at practice and the high fives and encouraging others and being encouraged. And I realized I missed that when a couple years ago I went and joined a Ultimate Frisbee League for beginners, and it was just really cool being on the team. And we're all learning a new sport and encouraging each other and saying good job and working hard and messing up, but having somebody standing next to you and saying, yeah, I'm messing up too, let's do this together. So I was like, I really miss being part of the team. So that's what I do miss the most. What I don't miss is, and this is on me, is how I approached the game. I was too analytical, and I overthought things, and it ruined me as a player. So that's what I don't miss.
Now, it's interesting because if you know Coach Val has a large following on TikTok, and I would have guessed that it would have been conditioning, just because, oh boy, conditioning is always not always the fun part of it. But that definitely didn't make sense. I think it's important to sort of, I like seeing, well, this transitions great into my next question. So many athletes now are speaking up about certain things, whether it's mental health or their struggles. What motivated you to start, empowering, educating, and motivating young adults and adults?
On TikTok?
Well, that and just throughout all the work that you've done.
Oh, I just have always been involved in empowering and hanging around youth. Okay, that sounds good, hanging around youth, but just empowering. It keeps me young. I love coaching. When I was in the WNBA, I had a summer league for girls, high school girls, that taught life skills in education, as well as basketball was the carrot to get them in there, and end up winning the Community Assist Award for those efforts. So I've always wanted to somehow give back to what I've learned, whether it's my successes or my failures, to the younger generation. I feel it's my calling, and if I didn't do it, I just wouldn't feel right.
what sort of new challenges has, both that as well as public speaking, what sort of new challenges have they brought to you? Or is it just kind of all come together for you? There's nothing really that is a big issue.
With regards to female athletes, of what I focus on is on my TikTok page when I'm not doing silly skits. It's confidence. A lot of girls are struggling with confidence. It's bullying. Female athletes are getting bullied because they're female athletes. And so that's why I actually changed my TikTok focus to female athletes, because I saw how they were getting bullied in comments and on their pages. It's really, really bad from teenage boys who probably couldn't run without falling. So that's what they're facing. And they're facing it in real life too. I'll get questions. How do you deal with boys who are putting you down or making fun of you because you're an athlete, or saying they're better than you, which I never had that experience. I think mainly because I went to all girls high school. So maybe someone else who's my age has had that experience. But real athletes and true athletes that are the real deal do not put down and make fun of other athletes. They stand by them, and they appreciate the grind of each other.
I definitely think that's key to note that, these real athletes, these people that dedicate their lives to this stuff. I mean, you don't see people in the NBA putting down people in WNBA. That doesn't happen, at least not that I've seen. So it's something that I spoke with our OL Reign forward Bethany Balser about it, and she mentioned that so many of these people that are doing these things, they were, when they see women's sports and they say, oh, this is they make a dumb comment, oh, this is boring, this and this is that, they're so geared to watching sports in one way, and they might have not ever seen say a WNBA game or an NWSL game. They're just so geared to a certain mindset, and they grow with that mindset, and that's not good. And I think it's important to educate people when they're young about this, and that there are women's leagues, and it's so that people know, because like you said, some people don't even know about the ABL. Some people may not know about the WNBA or the NWSL just because they might not get featured. I know that we spoke about Highlight Herd the other day, but some people may not see it on whether it's Instagram with House of Highlights or different media aspects with ESPN or Bleacher Report. They might not see these things. So with that being said, what steps do you think need to be taken to further grow women's sports? If I were to task you with that and put you on some sort of board, what sort of steps do you think you'd take? At least I'm putting you on the spot right now.
Yeah, I guess I wish I knew the answer. I'd be like the head of the WNBA right now, I guess. One thing I get frustrated with is the marketing. And I first thought it was the WNBA, but maybe it's like ESPN. Like, we never know when games are happening into the last minute. I'm watching NBA games and I'm seeing advertisements for an MLB game that's coming on soon, right? And that it should be saying WNBA game is coming on. The season starts. I haven't seen anything about the season starting. Maybe I haven't watched enough TV, but the season starts May 14th. And how I found out was on Twitter. I don't know. Yeah. I haven't seen anything on television.
Nope.
Saying that. That's what, like I said, I haven't been watching a lot of TV. So I don't know if you've seen it. Yeah, that. See?
Yeah, well, to be fair, all I watch is the games that are on TV. I haven't watched much television, but even that, I have not, like you said, I learned about the Storm schedule release on Twitter. That's how I found out, just because I follow the Storm pages. So I do think that's a key point, because I did want to mention the NWSL was not mentioned at all on ESPN until like one point last year. That's one, and they don't show highlights, nothing. So
yeah.
I think the media aspect is such a big thing, and that's what I try to do, with these interviews more so, is try to tell these stories of these women and just make sure that people know who these people actually are. It's not just, because I feel like, to a degree, if you know these people a little bit more, maybe, and you understand the stories, maybe you'll be able to incline to say, hey, let me learn about their teammates, or, just whatever. I try to listen, just so I can hear what I can do better. Because technically I'm part of the media. I know I'm not with an outlet yet, but I'm just trying to take what I learned from whether it's you or Jewel Lloyd or Bethany Balser with the NWSL and Amber Brooks, just trying to see what can be done, because until we can get to, the big companies that, it's the middle of an NBA game and they talk about this baseball game that happens later that who knows how many people will watch, and even on the little bottom scroller, I don't know how many times that show,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
They always do that. Like they'll say Lakers versus Warriors Sunday at ABC. They could do that for them. Maybe we'll see. I don't know. That's the thing. Like for a while, this is weird. For a while during the summers, I forgot the WNBA was happening, and then I accidentally turned on TV. I forgot all about it, and I would start watching it because it wasn't marketed. Nothing. It just nothing was really really said about it. So I want that to be better. Apparently, they did a good job of marketing the draft this year. That's what someone said, but I still think it could be better. I know in the last collective bargaining agreement, I believe something was in there about putting more marketing dollars towards the WNBA.
And I think that's such a big piece, is putting that money towards marketing. And it's interesting to think about that because Commissioner Engelbert said that if this season is successful, I'm sure that's a financial thing. If it's a financial successful season, that they're open to expanding. Now, do you have some thoughts on some places that, think that the league would expand to?
I was in that clubhouse meeting last week. Someone was talking about what they thought the best place would be. It was some random places too. What was it? Someone said Nebraska. They thought Nebraska was a good sports town for women. There was another place. I was like, it was another weird place. I can't think. It wasn't Memphis. It was like places there weren't any NBA teams. They were saying that they think because of how strong. I think the Bay Area because of Stanford. I don't know how they're and the fact that the guy who used to own the ABL team was the owner of the Warriors. I'm trying to think where else. It was just they should put it where like South Carolina. They lead the country in attendance for NCAA. South Carolina, they've gotten behind Dawn Staley in her program. So I think it's gonna have to be a place where women's basketball is strong. I'm curious about how well the team is doing in Connecticut. I don't know much about that team.
And it's interesting you mentioned the Bay because as far as I know, and unless somehow I'm forgetting, all that the league has right now in California are the Sparks. So it would fit to have a Bay team. It's just interesting to sort of hear about that and read that and think, okay, whenever a league talks about expansion, there's always, everyone wants to throw their hat in the ring. And it's just interesting to see where that might be, but again, to touch back on, the growth of these sports, I think it is important to actually market, the league and hopefully, some of these media outlets would actually do their part too in doing so, because it's not like there's not highlights. There are highlights. There are people. There are players. It's just about making sure that they get marketed. And again, it's like I said, obviously I'm not a woman and I don't, I'm not a woman in sports. So I just try to listen and see what I can do and just sort of hear how we can go forward with this sort of thing. You know what I mean? So I want to end with this. What sort of lessons have you learned from coaching? What sort of things? Because I think in life we all sort of continue to learn as we go on. You know what I mean? What sort of lessons have you learned as you've been coaching?
That, believe it or not, people relate to you more when you struggle. If I only shared, I got all my accolades and all my championships, I don't think kids be able to relate. But I think the reason why I do well on TikTok is because I shared with them for the first time ever, like last year, my struggle with depression. I took a season off from the WNBA because of depression. And no one knew that until last year, 2020. That's the first time I ever said that. So a lot of kids felt that they could be brave and come out and talk about how they were playing in sport and feeling like that. I talk about my struggle with confidence. I make fun of it, like I'll make funny skits of being on a bench and going in 30 seconds to go, you're up by 30. But that's real stuff, right? And some professional athletes, the popular ones, may not have gone through that, and they don't really talk about that. But I've been a starter, and I've been a bench warmer. Well, I don't call them bench warmers, I call them game changers. I don't call them bench warmers anymore. So I've been a starter, and I've been a game changer. So I think that's what I think the key to coaching is to be transparent and not be this person on a pedestal that you never go into anything, that you never felt hurt, and you never been frustrated, you never got in a fight in a game, which I have. So all of that, I think that's what's been helpful for me as a coach.
So I do like hearing that, because to your point, these young players growing up, they might say, oh, she's done this, she played pro basketball, she won these championships, and like you said, you might not be able to relate to that. But then what's so cool to see is so many of these athletes nowadays are sort of letting their struggles be known. Obviously the struggles aren't the fun part, but letting them know, hey, this is a normal thing, this is okay, and I do think that's important. And it is really cool to see that, some of that is the conversation's changing. But I know there's still work to do, but I do think that's an important thing, an important step to take. And it is really cool to see that we're sort of seeing more people take that stand and put their name out there and say, hey, this is something that I deal with. You may see all of my accolades, but I still deal with this sort of stuff. So again, I want to apologize for the technical issues. You can blame Comcast for that.
No, I'm still about the piano. My dad's playing.
Oh, I didn't even hear a piano.
Oh, good. Sometimes you can hear in the background, like people's like, "Oh, I love your music." Like, it's not mine.
I do want to really thank Coach Val, for your time, and just the lessons. Again, whenever I do these interviews, it's always a chance for me to learn from these people and hear how, like you said, how you got through the struggles, and it's really cool to see that you're using your platform to empower these women. And I may not be a woman, but I do follow you on TikTok, and it is cool to see the skits. But it's important, I think, for these people these young people that I say young people like I'm not that. I think you get what I'm saying though, is to have these people saying, hey, we're not that different. We're really not. So again, I want to thank you. Is there anything that you want to leave off on? I know I'll put your accounts down in the description for this, just so people know where to find you. But is there anything that you want to promote or say as a send off?
No, I just have a mentorship program that I have with women's basketball players ages 13 and up. It's a 6 month. I'm thinking about making a year, but it's a 6-month program, which is all about mindset and confidence and mental toughness, and you get to be mentored by me. And I wish I had somebody like me when I was younger and I was questioning myself and had so many questions to what's the next step and how do I navigate this as a young female athlete. So that's something I'm working on now. It's called the Fierce Baller Academy. And I'm excited about it.
I'll definitely make sure to put the link in there too, just so people can find it easy. Just so, hey, look down in the description. There it is. Boom. Again, I want to thank you for your time, and I hope that we continue to get this good weather, and hopefully, I don't know if you go to them, but hopefully, maybe I'll see you at some Storm games this year.
Yeah, are they opening things up? I don't know.
That's a good question. See, I know that season starts around mid-May, right? But I know that obviously the Mariners are playing with fans, the Sounders are playing with fans, the Rain have fans, and then the minor league team. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So I haven't heard any information on that yet. So it's something like, hey, I'd like to know. So.
Yeah, I want to go because I've been chatting with 2 of the rookies that are trying out, and I just really hope they make the team. I don't know though, because it's so hard. That's why I need to expand, because there's not many spots available.
Yep. Oh yeah. So we'll learn more as the season goes on, I guess. But yeah, hoping to get to some of those. And that's a good point. I didn't think about that all those other stadiums are outdoors. Good point. Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for your time, and just again, thank you.
Thanks for having me, Charles. It's great.